Yeah, this conversation is making me more scared of parents.
Oh.
The recording's in progress.
Yes. Hi.
Yo, what's up? How are you doing?
Oh my goodness, I'm doing well. I'm doing.
Yep.
It's been wild. Just summer's getting underway and all good things. The January 6th hearings are happening right now. It was Loving Day the other day. So
Loving Day.
Loving Day. So the civil case of the civil case that gives us the right to interracial marriage.
Oh.
Loving Day is on June 12th. And so it celebrates, I think the couple's actual name was Loving.
Okay.
So it celebrates our ability to marry interracially. And that apparently came 3 years after the civil rights movement. So, progress, slow as it may be.
If we're going to label it progress, then sure.
Yeah. And the fact that I still got comments on going to prom with someone that was not of my race as an Asian person in the year of our Lord 2012. It's still, we got a hot second to gotta take it.
There certainly is a lot of work that needs to be done.
Yeah. But yeah, so Loving Day was a thing. And January 6th, those hearings are going on and it's been pretty wild. But that's been pretty much my week. How about you?
Well, as people who are watching now, we have a guest this week. Yay! This is my cousin Krystal, and she's gonna help us out, and I'm super excited. Thank you for coming.
Okay, all right. I'm glad to be here.
And otherwise, it's been hot, very hot. I'm trying to stay cool.
Yeah. Let's see what else. Yeah, we got Juneteenth coming up on Sunday.
Yes.
Sunday, that's gonna be good. Do you get the day off on Monday?
I do
as well. Yes.
Amazing.
It's a national holiday now. Awesome. I mean, it does help. I work for an African-American female, so I think they started recognizing it before it was made a national holiday. But yes, we're off.
That's awesome.
Do you have it off?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We all get to celebrate and enjoy an extra day, and I'm glad that they're recognizing the Monday afterwards so that we don't have to be like, oh, that was just a Sunday holiday, so you have to still go to work. But now we actually have work off. Yeah. All righty. Are you ready for our Fangirl 5?
Yes.
All right. Do you want to go first?
You want to go first?
Oh, you want me to go first?
Oh, anyone can go first.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, you go first.
I go first.
Yes, you go first.
So our
I'll catch up.
I would have felt bad if I would just went on.
No. Yeah.
Our Fangirl 5, where we fangirl about someone that is phenomenal and doing amazing work, and we just get to sit there for a few minutes and just bask in how great these people are. So yeah.
So for this week, my Fangirl 5, we just had our primary elections here in South Carolina. So I'm just going to highlight not all, but most women of color who are running or who have ran. They're kind of over now. So off the top of my head, we've got Mia McLeod. I'm probably mispronounced her name. She ran for governor. She didn't win, but I really liked her.
Yes,
So I want to highlight her. And then Krystal Matthews for our Senate spot. And they're going to go against Tim Scott, who needs to get out. We have Krystal Matthews, Catherine Fleming, and Angela Jeter, who are all Black women who I loved, and their race was 32%, 33%, 31%. It was really tight. So that'll go to the runoff. And then, for my county council, we have Shakise Newton, who won, but she has to go to a runoff too. Just incredible women.
Yes.
That's awesome. And like with the all of the most recent years, I think we're like shattering records of the most like people of color running, the most people of color being elected into office. And so I think it's a great time. We still have a long way to go, but it is also a good time.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
What about you, Krystal?
My fangirl?
Yes.
Okay, so of course, my person is not, government officials or anyone, but I want to fangirl 5. That's how you say it?
Yeah.
My coworker, her name is Tatika Allen. I have to tell her about this podcast so she can hear, but she is my coworker. But outside of coworker, she is an awesome woman of God. She does business consulting. She makes t-shirts. She does coaching. She does a whole plethora of things. And we also talk a lot about parenting. So it's ironic that you guys are having me on here for that. But she is just an awesome go-getter, woman of God, very encouraging, very spiritual. When I'm having those days, that's who I go to. And she encourages me in all aspects. And she's just killing it out here. And she is probably 10 years my junior. So that is also awesome because she's doing a lot of great things, at a younger age. So I just want to say to Tika Allen, I see you, girl.
That's awesome.
Oh my God. That was so sweet.
Yeah, she's awesome. I have to let you meet her. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes. Fangirl 5s always just like make me so happy because like you get to talk great things about great people.
Yes, yes.
Right. Yeah. And as you will see, very probably quickly in this podcast, it's me. I have a tendency to get very pessimistic very quickly. So having this little fangirl 5 in there is a nice breath of fresh air. My fangirl 5 is an Instagram account called Garden Marcus. And he is a Black man and a gardener in Texas. And I'm very proud of him. And he just came out with a book.
Oh, about gardening?
Yes. And so he just loves to like spread awareness of how helpful plants can be for our mental health, how they teach us lessons. And I also like being a little creepy. I love his backyard. It's just beautiful. There's a ton of plants.
I was gonna say, I imagine it's like the best landscaping you'll get.
Yes. And especially in like the Texas weather. And like, I'm just so proud of him because like, the fact that he got a book deal is amazing. And I don't know if you saw like in book author publishing world, James Patterson said that there was a racist movement against white males trying to get book deals now. And basically every single author of color just screamed into Twitter.
Wow. How did those words come out of his mouth?
He is a old white man who is disgruntled at, publishing a book every year for the last 30 years, apparently. I remember whenever I worked at my hometown's library, there were so many James Patterson books on there. And like, if I wanted to find a book by an author of color, we would have to like go and outsource it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very proud of Marcus and his book deal. And he went to a Barnes and Noble and did that secret thing where that authors get to go and like sneak into a Barnes and Noble and go sign their books. So I'm going to go buy his book once I replenish my funds from buying all these other books.
Buying the other books. Is it like gardening tips?
Let me see, because like his whole content is Garden Marcus. There you are. He's also verified. He is the CEO and founder of Choice Forward. And he is available for workshops and presentations, author of How to Grow by Harper One Books. And he is just a very happy human being.
He is wearing a cowboy hat.
He is in Texas.
He looks happy.
Yes.
He's such a happy person. And his yard is amazing. And he is a Plantstagram influencer. And I love Plantstagram. They're all very positive people.
We know Hannah loves her plants.
Yes. Krystal, I will show you around my room afterwards if we have time, and I have a lot of plants.
Okay, that's awesome. Totally opposite of me, because I will kill unless you give me explicit instructions on watering. I'm going to kill watering and lighting. I don't do plants. My mom has a green thumb, but I didn't get that trait.
Like, I feel like that plants are just like very forgiving of people, and like they're very resilient. So, you know, like if you mess up, they'll give you another chance. I was just telling.
I agree. I have 2 plants in my house that they just keep saying, all right, do something with me. I'm still here, dude. And you're right. And I will water them and may take them outside, and they'll give me another week or so. So we might have to talk. Maybe there is hope for me.
Yeah. Okay. I love talking plants.
Okay, we'll talk after that. I might have to send you a picture and you tell me exactly what I need. More soil or something.
Oh my goodness. I would love that.
You see her face light up.
Hey, I'm excited that you're going to help me out. So, hey, we can do that.
I would love that so much.
Okay. Hey, that's a plan.
But yeah, but we're also here to talk about, where'd my book go? Oh my gosh. Okay. Hood feminism.
I love this name.
Right?
Yes, I love the name. I was like, I might need to go read that book. Yes.
Hood Feminism by Mikki Kendall. She is also amazing on Twitter. If you are on Twitter, we talk about Twitter a lot because it's just a fun and destructive way to spend your time sometimes. But she's phenomenal. And the reason we have asked you here this week is because neither of us are parents. And this week's chapter was titled Parenting While Marginalized.
Okay.
So like we thought, okay, how about we delve into that with someone who actually has experienced parenting, since frankly, I'm terrified of children. So
don't be, but sometimes I will say, yeah, be, but you know, don't be. Think about it. You're someone's child and you're not bad. So
I was wondering if you were going to disagree with that.
Okay.
Well,
there's a good part in every bad situation, I will say. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, as questions get arise. Yes.
Awkward silence. Yes. So
I'll just take it from here.
Yes, please do.
So, Krystal, can you tell us about your family?
Okay, so I am married and I have 3 boys. So I'm the queen of the castle with 4 men. I have 3 boys, 18, 13, and 12. All different personalities, you know, but I'm Mama Bear. But I can be that mama that they don't want to see, but you know, you're not gonna mess with my cubs. And so, you know, only I can do that. So my oldest graduated this year from Blackwood High School. Super proud of him. And then on the other side can wring his neck too. Then I have my middle child, who is Jermel, middle child in all aspects. He probably is at football practice right now. Then I have my baby boy, Jameer, and my oldest is named Jermaine, as well as my husband is Jermaine. So that's, I don't know how detailed you want to go or what, but you know, that's my family. That's my immediate family.
Yeah, no, that was perfect. I was hoping that you would introduce everyone.
Okay.
Yeah. My goodness, 3 boys. That's literally like,
yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
Like
that's all I can say. Yes.
Yeah. I'm an only child, so I always ask Kara, like, as someone with a sibling, do you ever X, Y, or Z? Like, one conversation we got into was like, do you ever just poke them randomly? Just like go up and just like poke them? Because I don't understand that. I don't understand sibling dynamics like that. So do they like mess with each other? Like, what are their dynamics like?
You know, good and bad days. I will say that because some days they love each other, some days they hate each other. And so I think it's probably like anything. Yeah. I can find my younger ones playing, having a ball. And the next day I can find one in this room, one in that room, and leave me alone. So it just depends on how we wake up, what side of the bed we're on. That's what I say.
As someone with a brother, I agree.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So like as a married woman, do you think you could talk a little bit about co-parenting and how that, like, how co-parenting with your partner goes like in a marriage, and how y'all like split duties? I don't know. I'm not partnered and I also don't have kids. So like asking these questions is gonna be awkward on my part. So I apologize.
No problem. So I am married. Yes, I did say that. I am married to Kiera's wonderful cousin, who is very opinionated. I would say, nevertheless, we love him still.
Major shout out, Jermaine.
Yes. But I would say, I think we have a good mixture, a good dynamic. I think we have boys, but with women, we can be more of a softer tone. I think maybe less intimidating. So when I say I'm Mama Bear, I'm truly Mama's Bear. If it's a teacher or a coach or something, if there's a problem, I'm going in. And my husband is there to support me and sometimes even bring me back down, because sometimes, mom comes out and you have to realize that, kids are kids. They're going to do some things. And I've always told my kids, hey, I'm going to support you from A to Z. But if you don't tell me the truth, we're going to have some problems, because I'm not going to look like a fool when I go clawing. So my husband is a great support. He lets me go, and he's like my sounding board. I think we do know that, and our kids know, they've tried it though. You can't ask me, can you do something? And I say no, and you go to daddy, and daddy's gonna say yeah. Because we both know to go back and say, hey, did they come to you about this? And so we try to make sure we're on one accord, even if we may not agree. And so I think in marriages, all the time that we're both raised differently. My husband came from a single parent family. I came from a 2-parent family. So we just have different views, but we compromise and we talk amongst ourselves before we, I guess, bring punishment or make a decision for our kids. So, I think it works great.
I will interject. I think I've said this, they're the best example of teamwork that I've seen within a marriage. It's so much fun to watch.
Thank you.
Oh, that's so.
So how would you describe your parenting style?
It's funny that I meant to Google. So, I don't know if they're like different typical parenting styles. Now, should I be looking at you or the camera?
Whichever. That's fine. I like the going back and forth. That's fine.
So I will say, in today's generation, everything is so different. So I feel like I have a little bit of old school parenting with the modern generation, a touch of the modern generation. And I say that because I'm an old school parent. I have a lot of my kids have friends that may have single parents or either younger parents. And so I probably take some of the things my parents might have said or did that I didn't want to hear and use that with my kids. But I understand that times have changed, generations have changed, kids are changed. And so I try to meet my kids where they are and where life is maybe taking them. And, let's kind of talk about this and try to get them to understand that, hey, I was 16, 17, 18 once. We probably tried everything that you've tried, probably just better, because we didn't have technology and we didn't have all this stuff that they have now. So I would say, a little bit of old school with a touch of reality. That's a better way to say it, because you got to know what's going on in today's world. So
Right.
Like, speaking of like today's world, like you mentioned that your youngest is 12.
yes.
If like something that just popped into my head, if you had to like turn back the clocks, or so to say, and have like the 12-year-old be the oldest in this day and age right now, do you think you would do anything different? So like if your oldest was now 12 instead of your youngest being 12, and then the other two follow.
You're making me think. So I will say, I tell everybody there's no book on parenting. And because I do have an 18-year-old, there's things that we did with him. Just last night, my husband and I having a conversation that I got to figure out how we're going to change with the 13 and 12-year-old. Because so if I could turn books back, yeah, there is a lot that, I'm not gonna say a lot, but there are different things that, more I would want to encourage more leadership and push more leadership. And I don't know if leadership is a thing that you could teach, but wanting them to be more independent, wanting them to be open to step up more and take the lead on a lot of things. And so that is one thing I definitely, now my oldest is a great child. He graduated with a 3.7, so I think I did well. But what I see in him more is he's going to go along with his friends. And I want you to lead your friends more. And so I would figure out what I could do to instill that in him. As much as we always say, hey, be the leader, not the follower, we're parents. So we say stuff, they listen to half of what we say. So if I could roll back the time and my youngest be my oldest, that is one thing, knowing that, it's okay to go your own way, just finding ways to instill certain things. But I would definitely, the academic side, I think, I don't know how much I would change about that. And always, my oldest has done well. But just, I think the leadership and the independent side, they're all boys. So sometimes I look and I'm like, all right, when I'm not here, I don't know what you're going to do. So, being a little more independent when it comes to stuff around the house, they're boys. So we do vacuum, we do wash dishes, we do, but I would love them to do it more on mama not saying these your dishes day. And and girls are different. So there's a lot that I would change, just because I think I'm writing the parenting book as I parent. And so now that I've had 18 years with my oldest, it's a lot that I can feel, we can do differently. Not a lot, but there's some things that I would love to do differently with my other ones.
Yeah. And then oh, sorry.
I was just going to ask you, I thought Krystal brought up a really good point, whether leadership is something you have or it's something that you obtain. What do you think, Hannah?
Ooh, I feel like it's definitely something that you can absorb while you're through observing. Like, it's kind of, I feel like leadership, it's something that like people talk about a lot, but it's one of those like you mimic what you see, like you mirror what you intake. So like whenever like kids will like look at TV shows, and like I think there was like a study that there were American kids copying Peppa Pig's accent because it's a British pig. So like the kids were starting to say mummy and like having like British accents. So like I feel like leadership, like if they see strong leaders in media, if they see strong leaders in their teachers, in their parents, in their in the adults in their life, they're going to copy those attributes. And like our friend Caroline, I love Caroline, she was my roommate and like our friend at Columbia. She would always say, I'm just an amalgamation of literally everyone that I think is cool. So she was like, I have no actual original personality traits. I am just an amalgamation of everything that I think is a cool person. Not saying that everyone's just copies everyone, but I do think that kids have a tendency to observe and absorb.
Okay. Yeah. That's good. I like that. Look at you.
Oh, thanks. Is there anything that like in terms of like very recently, I know that COVID is a parenting curveball.
Yes.
And COVID was a curveball for all of us, but like
right.
whenever it comes to all of this modern technology, like we didn't know what TikTok was like 2-3 years ago. TikTok, internet access, modern technology, especially with your oldest being 18, like I have noticed that a bunch of teenagers are like really politically active. They're really like connected with grassroots and community building on the internet and things like that. Is there anything that you have just looked at it in terms of parenting and just like, okay, we'll just take this like one day at a time and just been like, all right, we're all inside with a giant disease now. What do we do? Like, how did you approach these just seemingly bigger than any of us types of problems when you're parenting?
So and you're right. You're right. It's like all of a sudden one day it's like, ooh, okay, we're all here. And coming from different ages, different, my husband used to tell everybody, you really find out if you love your wife during COVID, because that could have made or break you. And I think it brought families together. So I think it brought us together. But then it also realized, I would say my oldest, because he plays sports, he contracted the virus early on. And being a teenager, his motto is, I come in the house, I'm going to my room, I'm closing the door. Well, once COVID, I'm like, you close the door, don't you open it. And so he didn't like that. And I'm like, what you mean? This is what you do every day. You come in, you close your door, you in your room, you come out to eat. And so it was a lot for him. Although that's his routine, because I said, oh no, don't open the door. I'll let you know when food is out. You open the door then, it was hard. And he said that was a hard 10 days for him, because, and so then when my, who now 13-year-old and my husband got it, I could tell my husband, don't you open that door. But when it came to my 13-year-old, I felt like I had to say, okay, come out, go straight outside, let's walk around, because a different age, the teenager could probably understand it more, but the younger ones, and I thank God only one had it. I was afraid to say, okay, no, you can't come out. You can't see us for 10 days. I'll talk to you through this door. And so it was hard. And so, I heard some friends that was like, well, one got it, we all got it, because we just didn't seclude. I was afraid to do that. You had to be secluded. But I had to make advances and I guess changes as it went along. And it was hard. I think kids got lazy during COVID, especially academically. And that was hard because, the schools really didn't know how to teach through that. And so it was a lot of apps and work pages, and it just made learning lazy. And for my oldest, I think that was the turning point for him. A lot of studying kind of eased, and kids Google everything now, and everything was online. And so it was just, I think COVID hurt a lot of stuff academically, definitely.
Yeah.
You hinted at how you had to I'll just say their name.
Yeah, it's fine.
I can't remember their age.
Yeah.
For Danielle, he had to stay in his room. Now
Yes.
you go outside. My mom talks about all the time how she had to parent me and my brother differently. Do you think you do the same for your three?
I totally have to parent all three differently.
Okay.
All three differently. and then some similar. Now, what I will say, my oldest and my baby are probably more alike than my middle one. My middle one is that middle child in all categories, but everyone is different. Like academically, I'll say that's the easy one to do. My oldest, I sat down at the table with him probably up into 5th grade. Every night we're doing homework, we studying, we're preparing for tests. Come middle school, he started becoming more independent. I didn't sit down. If I saw a bad grade, we gonna have an issue. And he handled it. With my middle one, I sat down with him, getting that foundation. We struggled all through elementary school. He got to middle school, the light bulb popped, and he's been all A's ever since. Now, my baby boy, on the other hand, I've been trying to adapt to what I did with the other ones. Well, that's not working for him. So, I'm still learning, like academically, what's going to work for my baby boy. So you definitely have to parent each, I think as a parent, you think, okay, this worked for him. It got to work for the other ones. And you see that is not true. There are 3 different kids. You have to try something different where I can tell one, hey, good job. And they're good. One, I'm gonna have to say, that was really awesome. Really have to be animated at it. And then one, I can like, give me a pound. It's different kids. The oldest, probably at his age now, if I never went to another game, I wondered if he would even care. My middle child and my baby boy, I think they look and they're used to mom's always being there. But what I did notice when my oldest was younger, my husband traveled a lot. So mom was there. And when I wasn't there, it was like, what you mean you're not coming? But as he got older, it was like, well, I understand you can't be at everything. And so then I started feeling bad. I'm like, what you mean? I'm always there. You know what I'm saying? So it's you do parent each differently. And I think as they age, they look at things differently as well.
Okay.
Yeah, this conversation is making me more scared of parenting.
I can't even say don't be. Parenting is, I wish there was a book. I wish there was a guideline, but there's not. And every child is different. So what worked for me may not work for y'all.
Like we were just talking about this before we started recording, but there was like a meme or a Twitter feed or whatever where it was just like asking millennials and zillennials, now that Gen Zers are starting to have babies, which is terrifying, but asking like for people who are in their 20s and choosing to like hold off on children or not have children like right now in this day and age, and then people are like gestures wildly at society, like look at all of this, like it just feels like literally the world is crashing, and like how can you like even think to like try to parent in the middle of that when I like, Kara, I don't know about you, but I've been just like low-key trying to survive and like buying books just to make me feel something. But like whenever it's like rent, doctor's visits, trying to drink enough water throughout the day, like, and you're just sitting there thinking, how can I keep myself alive, much less a miniature human?
Yes. And that's true. That's true. And Akira knows I'm always talking about dinner. They'll stop by and they're like, Krystal, what you cooking? I don't know. It gets frustrating. And you're right. You wanna, it's easy to cook the bad stuff, but you're thinking, we're preparing them for life. We want them to stay forever. So it's hard. You're right. Cause I'm like, I have to think, I feel like I'm taking care of 5 people, not just me. It's me, my husband, and my kids. So yes, you're right to think about it like that.
So what is that thing that whenever someone asks you, how are you a parent in these times, it's like, okay, yeah, you can't just like turn off the parenting switch, but like what exactly are those little like bits that you look for to kind of like be encouraging to yourself, like what not like the like what keeps you going because like you're a parent, you're always going. So like
basically.
but what's encouraging, because some people unfortunately don't have like support to like just be able to parent and keep going. Sometimes they like, I formerly worked with child services in my last job, so I would run into challenges with families who really just did not like, they felt very discouraged from everything going on, and it was very hard to keep going. So like, what is it that you draw your encouragement from?
I think that changes from day to day. A lot of times I say it's hard being a parent, and it's hard drawing encouragement. I mean, that's amazing that you'll ask that question. A lot of times I go back to the fact they didn't ask to be here. And we did this. So I gotta push, and I gotta make sure that they have, their basic minimum, because they didn't ask to be here. I bought them here, so I'm responsible till the time. Now, my oldest is 18, so he getting close. I guess I gotta wait till he's at least legal or something. But I look at it, I get frustrated, and but then I have to say, they didn't ask to be here. This was their dad and our choice. So now we got to make it. We got to make it happen. And then so I think that's just my encouragement. I keep reminding myself that I had them.
Yeah.
They didn't ask, so it's kind of my fault, and I got to do it. No, not my fault, but it's my responsibility to a certain point. And so I think that's what I keep telling myself. But it is frustrating. Sometimes I'm like, do I really have to do this? And I think I just told them the other day, look, I'm about to choose me. Y'all got to figure it out. And my husband was sitting there, and he was like, well, that doesn't include me. Oh, yes, it does. You too. So sometimes you do lose it, and you feel like, okay, I want to check out. I just want to do what I want to do, but it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. Do you want to ask the next question, Kara?
I can.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay. So, and along these lines,
Okay.
Mikki Kendall talks about mommy wars, which she discusses as like very minimum things that moms like kind of freak out about just out of privilege. And so she talks about like organic food versus not giving your kid organic food. I was just curious if there's anything along those lines, like a mommy war, where you found it just actually didn't matter.
I'm not gonna say not it actually didn't matter. I think life, like you said, organic versus non-organic. I know organic is better, and you have to do, but what I found out is that to survive, groceries are expensive. I can't feed 5 people organic stuff. Right. So you take that sacrifice and you pray about it. You try to wash the vegetables and make it that's what it is. But it's, you have those mommy wars. I think the biggest thing, the mommy war, the newest thing is my oldest has a tattoo. That was a mommy war with me, because I was like, no, for the longest. And that's when I had to realize times have changed. So then I just had to put stipulations on it. And, he's an athlete. So every athlete you see, they have the sleeve of tattoos and the uniforms. He plays basketball primarily. So that was a kind of mommy war for me. And then he kind of got me, because he told me his first tattoo was going to be a rest in peace to his caregiver. And so that's when I started getting, oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Well, his first tattoo was not that, and it's the self-made arm sleeve. You saw him at graduation.
Oh, I saw it. It is very dope.
Yeah. So I was like, but if that's his way of expressing himself, I want to adopt that. And as I, that was probably the first time everybody saw it. And I will say, openly honest, at first I told him, you're gonna have to cover that come graduation party. And he looked at me, he was like, Mom, why? And so then I said, okay, but I told him, pretend you have on a watch and it has to start at the end of the watch, because if you had to go to an interview or if you needed to dress professionally, I don't want people to judge you because what you decide to put on your skin. And that is the mommy war with society, you know. Granted, he's a great child. He had finished with a 3.7.
Yeah.
But because he has a tattoo, are you going to judge him for that tattoo? So the mommy in me said, you know, I wanted to be able to be covered. So of course at graduation, no one could tell because he had on a long sleeve shirt, you know. But he asked, can I change for my party? And I'm like, you know, yes, because that's his way of expressing himself. I gotta accept it and know you did what I asked you to do. I asked you not to let it come all on your hands, so it can be covered. It has to be. So I'm respecting your way of expressing, you know, your personality. But you know, it is hard because society, you know, you do have those mommy wars, like, do I let him do it? And I said no. He tried to get me to sign at 16. So this is something he's been waiting 2 years. Because he tried to get me to sign. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Well, he turned 18 in April. And so I kind of knew it was coming. I thought maybe he had left it alone. But and so it was just one of those things. And so my husband said one day, you know, Jermaine went and snuck and get a tattoo. I said, no, he didn't. I knew what it was going to look like. You know, I knew everything. I wish he would have let me pick the artist. Because I think I probably would have looked for different things that a kid probably wouldn't have. But it's just one of those things, you know. Teenagers won that war, and I kind of just said what I needed it to do, and he abide by that. So, you know, I'm like, hey, it's life. Times are changing, you know.
Yeah. Like in terms of like society, and I feel like this is just very universal for all mothers, like it always feels to me, looking from the outside of, I'm not a mother, obviously, so I'm like looking at it and I'm like, moms have to deal with so much pressure from society, like you're a bad mom if X, Y, and Z, like it always seems so negative, or like why can't moms be like this mom? And it's like, I don't know, a celebrity mom that has like all the time, money, and resources because
of course
because they're celebrity. So like how do mothers, how would you say like yourself as like a mother navigates like these society pressures of like, no, you're a bad mom because X, Y, and Z, and like pushing back and saying, no, I'm a good mom, you're just a bad society?
You know, I think that's an internally thing. And that's just something you have to keep telling yourself, and looking like with the tattoo. Am I a bad mom because I let my child get a tattoo? No, some in society may say that, but that's just his way of expressing himself. I mean, his tattoo says self-made the year he was born. And so I joke with him because I say, you really weren't self-made. Dad and I made you in 2004. But I understand where you were going with it. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I think it's just an internal thing. And so I had to tell myself, I got to let him change clothes for graduation. You know, he's a kid. Of course, he wants everybody to see it. He's proud of it. So it's just the internal thing is, you know, I'm going to let him be him, and I'm just not going to worry about it. And so the people that I probably thought would have said something about it didn't say anything at all, or was like, Kiera, oh, it's very dope. And I was like, oh, really? You like it? So I had a few people was like, oh, I love his tattoo. And I was like, really? And then, the people that I probably thought would say something, they just didn't say anything at all. So I'm his mom. I knew, and, I don't care what you say, he's still my child. And, he did not do it without me. No, although he was 18, he could have gone and signed and did it. I knew the day, I knew. And so that's when you just have to tell yourself, look, long as I'm okay, that's all that matters. And sometimes that's hard. It is hard, but that's just the life. And like you say, society we live in.
Yeah.
And I wanted to piggyback off, you were worried about how you would be perceived. how he would be perceived with a tattoo.
Right.
So that like perfectly slides into what Mikki Kendall was talking
Yes.
about.
Oh, really? Oh.
I was just
So
looking
she
at that
talked about-
question. Yes.
Yeah.
She talked about race and how she had to prepare. She has two black boys, and she had to talk about how her boys are going to be perceived because they are two black boys in America. Right. So I was just curious how racism conversations worked in your house.
So I read that question, and I'm gonna tell you what I first. So I'm not sure. Hannah, it's Hannah, right? If you know, we lived in Florida for 8 years. So we lived in a small Jewish town called Oviedo. I love it. I would go back tomorrow. But that was 15 minutes from Sanford. And I don't know if you guys know what's significant in Sanford, but that's where Trayvon Martin died. So we were 15 minutes. Jermaine was becoming a teenager. Oh, wow. There was, and Kira, I don't know if you remember our house, but there was a 7-Eleven within walking distance to our house. Yeah. That was petrifying for me because I could imagine my Black son putting on a hoodie and walking to the corner store. And so it was just one of those things where, because we're the minority, I had to have those conversations. And the first conversation I had with him, the thing in Oviedo was to go to the mall to hang out as kids. Well, I had to have him the conversation with, you go in the mall, what y'all going to do? Well, just walk around, Mom. Well, if you go in a store, don't touch nothing. Don't look at nothing. If you don't have enough money in your pocket, don't even touch it. If your friends touch it, encourage them to put it down. If they put it in their pocket, encourage them to put it back. But if they don't, then you get away from them and you call me. And I'm telling him this because we're the minority. He probably had maybe 2 African-American friends in Oviedo. So none of his friends looked like him. So my fear for my child to be in a mall with friends that don't look like him, they love him, they don't see color, but just afraid that he's going to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Somebody's going to do the wrong thing and it's going to be my child because of the color of his skin. And so he didn't understand why I was saying that. I'm like, if your friends put something in their pocket, you get away from them, and Mom, they're not going to do that, So he never understood why I was having these conversations, why I was giving him these examples. And I don't know, he may understand it. When we moved back here, I was happy because he was going to see more of the division. There, it was like, I loved it. Everybody was one. They saw no color, and that was beautiful. Coming back home to South Carolina, I think people see color here. Yeah, oh yeah, you Black. You know what I'm saying? And they see it. So I was glad that he saw the best of both worlds, because I felt we lived in this happy fairy tale world, but I needed him to understand that's not life. And, that's not how we live. And sometimes you will encounter situations that's not pleasant. And with the cops, now that he's driving, I'm like, hey, if, a cop stop you, you need to call me, FaceTime me, and just let the phone sit down. So it's frustrating to have these conversations. And I have had Caucasian friends cry because they heard me telling Jermaine certain things about the store and all that. And it was like, you shouldn't have to do that. You're right, I shouldn't. But that's just the world we live in. So it's always hard. Kids don't understand why you're having that conversation, but you have it. Just because that's just the world we live in. I've told them, hey, it's things that you're going to see other kids be able to get away with that you're not going to get away with. And it's okay. But that's why you have to make wise decisions, because, our skin is our sin, and it's sad, but you have to remind your kids that that's just the world we live in.
Hannah, was there anything that you had to be taught that your parents said about like perception or race?
So I don't know if Kara told you this, but I'm adopted by white people. So okay. I grew up in a very white town. My dad's a pastor. My mom was a teacher. And so like a very white town, there were little to no racial mirrors for me. So I didn't grow up around other Asians. So the first time I was actually ever called a racial slur was in school, and I had no idea what I had just been called.
Wow.
But I heard someone else gasp, and I was just like, wait, what?
Right. Wow.
So I never had the kind of conversations that an Asian parent might have with their child. I didn't learn about how, for example, as an Asian woman, we happen to be fetishized a lot thanks to a lot of American imperialism. So no one told me how it would be perceived if I were to date someone that was not Asian.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I went to prom with a Black guy, there were definitely people talking and saying things. And I guess I just kind of feigned innocence and just kind of just let it roll off my back. But like now that I'm older and know more about like what it is to be a non-white person in the US,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of hits back at that. So that was my experience growing up as a minority in Texas.
Right.
My follow-up question about parenting children as a minority in the United States, what do you think about like having school-age children and all of this crazy stuff going on about book bans, critical race theory, like all of these things that affect your children's education? Like, how are you navigating that?
So it's like a case by case situation. I think everything is different. You find different, I think different generations have different values and different views on certain things. So the way I may feel about something, because I feel like I'm in a mixed generation, like some old and then young, my kids' friends may feel totally different. So then he may go to school saying, well, my mom said this, but then somebody's gonna be like, well, that's not what my mom say.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard. It's just a case by case, you just have to, that's one of those things you just have to deal with it head on when it happens. Because you never know. You never know how to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And like as a former Floridian, I'm sure you've been seeing all of the stuff that the governor's been like
Yes.
saying and all that interesting stuff. I hear a lot of New Yorkers talking about like wanting to go to Florida, but also being like, I don't know about Florida at the same time. So
Yes. And it's funny because, like I say, I would go back in a heartbeat, but then you're right. You hear all that stuff and you're like, oh Lord, it's Florida. But because you don't look at, like I said, I was living in this happy fairy tale world where you didn't think about all that stuff, but you're right. You do live in Florida. You know what I'm saying? It is. So yeah, you try to block that stuff out, but it's real. It's Florida. The funny thing about Oviedo, where I lived, some of the best people, but when there was voting and the political time, I kind of tried to stay off Facebook. Didn't really, because that's when you really see people's views. And it was weird. Like some of the best people and the best people that we talked to all the time, you saw their views and they were very vocal. And I'm like, whoa, okay. Let's tailor that back there. And then, I think they realize who they're friends with. And then they I think take a double take. I had one of my husband's friends that I commented, I think I put something about Black Lives Matter. But this was a Caucasian guy that commented that worked with my husband, and his thing was all lives matter. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but that's not the problem right now. So you're right. And so this was like on my page. So he I can respect the fact he took it off the page and inboxed me and tried to explain himself. He's a great guy. And what he said is, hey, something happened to your kids. I'm the first one there. We fighting, we get an attorney, we get, and I said, I get that, but you're doing that because you know us and you love us. But it's any other little Black boy, you wouldn't have done that. And so that I'm like, what you need to realize is Black lives being taken, you know. So yeah, something happened to one of my kids. I know you're gonna be right there to support us, but you got to realize you're not worried about yourself. You're not worried. Well, he has a Spanish wife, so what I realized as he, and the child is young, you might have to worry about your child because now your child is a minority, but you don't think about it like that. And so, you know, white privilege is real. And so what you need to realize is I say what I say because it's real. And so I had to explain that I can see Jermaine walking to the corner with his hoodie on, you know, going to get some Skittles from the gas station. And so it's real, you know, as a white boy, he can walk to and it's okay. But, you know, they didn't see that. And, you know, they tried to put it up. No, it's different. No, it's not. It's not. And so that's the hard part. That's the hard part, trying to navigate during that stuff.
And Mikki Kendall certainly talks about, and I certainly resonate with the idea that if your feminism, she talks specifically about feminism, but you hit it too, like if your anti-racism is like about just my family or just me because you know me and not about like the overall group, if your feminism is just for white women, it's not real feminism. It's got to be for everybody.
Yes, totally.
No, I saw once again on social media, because I low-key live on social media. I saw someone talking about like, okay, women, if you are a woman in a straight relationship, heterosexual relationship, and your boyfriend is homophobic, but you are not homophobic, you're still supporting someone that is homophobic. So I was just like, that is something that is very interesting, because they were like, you're not an ally if you are still in these close, like intimate relationships with someone who you're not checking. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's something that really kind of resonated with me as a person of color with white parents, because as many times as I have tried to check in on my parents, I've gotten some pushback. It's really interesting. So like, for more context, my dad's church is a Southern Baptist church, a white Southern Baptist church. So one day I just asked him point blank, hey Dad, Southern Baptist Convention, how'd that start off? He didn't want to talk about it.
I was about to say, what did he say?
For obvious reasons, he did not want to talk about it. And then I said, why do we still support the Southern Baptist Convention if it is rooted in racism? Why not go to another denomination? Why did you choose to continue to be a Southern Baptist pastor?
Wow.
That was a fun and lovely conversation. I call out my dad on this podcast so many times. He listens to it, and we have
every once in a while, Hannah will be like, a family member, and this will be like, no, scratch that, my dad.
Because my dad I love him to death. He is the epitome of a straight cisgendered white male. Like, was born in 1951, like was in college during the civil rights era. One of my grandmother's sisters, actually, like, he has a very distinct memory of his great aunt like hitting him for drinking out of the wrong water fountain in Texas. Wow. So he grew up through all of these changes and ended up adopting a Chinese kid. And my cousins actually have adopted children of other races as well. So my family is just a very interesting family. Whenever we go to the park, people are like, whose kids are these? Which white people adopting children of color is a whole other podcast in and of itself. Yes. But that just gives a little more context to like my situation, and like, what in your opinion of like making sure people not are in line, but like going off of like what that girl said on social media, like if your intimate partner is homophobic, you're not an ally if you're not checking them. Like if like in our this is such a like hard question to like formulate right now, and this is my fault for not writing them down earlier. Kiara was way more prepared than me. Like the people in your life, whenever you have these difficult conversations with Black Lives Matter, and they're not holding their people accountable, what is it like holding someone accountable for not holding someone else accountable to you? That's what I was trying to ask. Sorry.
It's hard because you can't hold them accountable. They don't feel responsible. That whole argument I had with him, like I ended up blocking him. And my husband might have communicated with him, but after a while I was cordial, but I don't want to see what you got to post. No, if you're not listening to what I'm saying, I have nothing to say to you. And so you can't make them believe. They don't understand. And I guess that's where you just had to meet people where they are. And that's the harsh reality of life. Do I ever think that like if we needed something, he wouldn't come through? I think he would. But did he understand how I felt? No. He understood how I felt for my child, but he couldn't understand how I felt for the society. And that was a problem for me. Because how can you understand how I feel for my child? You can't understand how my neighbor feels for their child. It's still all the same thing, an African American child. So it's hard. I don't think you'll ever make anyone understand that.
Yeah.
This is reminding me of a post I saw on our favorite feminist Instagram page, because I also spend a lot of time on social media.
Such a generational thing. We live on social media. Let's be real.
And I'll share the link in the description, but it was just talking about the argument about trans kids playing sports and their perspective gender. And at the end of it, it was this trans person who was like explaining it. And then they were like, if you don't understand, then that's fine, because we live in a society that's unfortunately just not understanding. And I think it talks about like showing yourself grace. And I just thought that was really like, oh, because sometimes I feel bad for not being on the right side of things. And then I'm like, that's right. Like, it's not, unfortunately, it's not culturally the norm right now. Whatever the more the more human rights perspective. It's okay to give yourself grace, right, if you don't know how to be like the most progressive on all of the stances.
Right. Yes. I agree.
Yeah, like one of our Columbia classmates, I asked her a question about a certain population, and I had assumed because she had grown up around that area, and I was like, what do you know about this population? And she was like, I want you to think about what you're asking me right now. And I was like, oh crap.
Ooh.
I was just like, and it's right there in the Instagram to be like, it's not on public, it's in the DMs, but I was just like, I am so sorry. Like, it's fine, you're learning, but thank you for being receptive to that criticism. And I was just like, oh, I'm gonna kick myself for this for a while. So thank you, Itzel, for pulling that on me and like showing me like, okay, I know what you're trying to do is you're trying to like prove a point here, but you're also perpetuating violence by continuing to like ask me to do labor for you to prove a point, for you to seem more woke. And I was just like, okay, I'm gonna go like scream into a pillow.
Yeah, that hurt, but that was a good way to hold you accountable.
Oh yeah, accountability sucks. It's fun. It's not fun, and people think about like accountability being like this magic word. It's like accountability, but no, it hurts. It hurts all of us, really. And then whenever like accountability is necessary, but it's not fun.
Right. It's that hard work that's absolutely worth doing.
And so often we find ourselves pulling the same amount of work all the time when other people are just benefiting off of our work too. So that's another conversation. That's a lot of fun stuff. So we just have a few more questions. I apologize. I have a volleyball game at 8:00. So, but Mikki Kendall shares a story about her parenting decisions being second guessed because of the assumptions people made about her due to her race and being a Black mom. Kira wrote this. So we're curious. I am too curious and piggybacking off of your labor and being prepared while I have been just asking random questions. If you've seen this, or have you experienced this, people questioning your parenting skills or your parenting knowledge or your ability because of your race?
So it's funny. I think I have. It's one of those things you're not really sure, but I had a friend, and I think she was questioning it probably just because she knew it was different. So I had a Caucasian friend, of course, back in Florida, who I think was having some conversations with her child, and the child might have called her an idiot. Ooh. And so my child was with them, and so this is my oldest now. So she asked him, "Hey, Jermaine, what would your mama do if you called her an idiot?" And so my child goes to say, "She probably would knock me in my mouth." So I was like, "He told you that?" He said that. And so, like you said, because of, I think, different rate, and he probably was right. If he would have called me an idiot, I would have knocked him out. But I think that's a culture thing that, that probably wasn't shocking to Kiara, but you probably was like, "Ooh, really? She gonna?" And so, the mom at that point was like, "I need to be more like you, because my child will just say anything to me." And I'm like, "I wish he might." You know what I'm saying? So I think it's a culture thing, because I'm like, it's gonna be some respect here. I want my kids to be able to talk to me, but I wish you might call me. I thought my oldest said a profanity word to me yesterday, and I went off. And we were on the phone, so it's really no way to kind of say if he did or he did not. But he was like, "Mine did not, no." But I went 0 to 100 because I thought I heard it. Oh my God. So yeah. Oh no, it's a difference, and I just think we're known, and so society puts like we're known to be loud, and we're known to be boisterous, and we're known not to be able to handle stuff. Well, I can go in any audience and I'm going to handle myself with dignity, and I'm going to talk and speak, but my kid's not going to disrespect me. And no matter where we are, I'm going to get you right. And so I think you're right. Sometimes society puts the wrong labels on African Americans, because I can handle myself in any crowds, but I'm still not going to let you disrespect me or my kids. You know what I'm saying? And so then you might see another part of me, and you might think, "Oh, she one of them." Oh, no. She's just a mother that you're going to respect my child. And so I think that's just one of those things. But I thought it was weird, because I was ashamed that he told her I'm going to knock him in the mouth. But then I was like, yeah. I am. And so it's just one of those things. I just think it's the underlying, they know, it's a difference. I know I parent differently from you, but she told me, she's like, "I need to be more like you." And I'm like, "Well, maybe try it, because I wish he might," So it's just one of those things. But it was good because she was a good friend. I know she didn't mean any harm, so I could receive that from her. But it wasn't like she was saying, "Oh no, you're wrong. Oh my God, I'm gonna report you." It was like, "Shoot, I might need to take a page out of your book. Hey, come on." Come on. So, I think it was a good thing.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, Mikki Kendall was talking about the latter that you were talking about, where it's like a parenting decision is different, and so they report it because they see it as not fit or bad
Yes,
parenting.
yes.
But that was a more positive example, certainly.
Yeah.
In the difference of parenting.
Yes.
Yeah. And like parenting and like I feel like this can be like a total other conversation, but there's another account, once again, Instagram, that I follow that talks about like the disparity in reporting on parenting based on race. And as someone that did work previously in child protective services, like I did see a lot, statistically speaking, a lot of overrepresentation of children of color and parents of color in that system than white parents. And so like, oh, where was I going with that? Oh yeah. Okay. So the Instagram account that I follow talks about racial disparities in the reporting systems and how these systems are racist, and how like and how people, while they're just normal parenting, but it's the I guess it's like the system that just really has more of, well, we talk about the systems being stacked against parents of color and people of color all the time. So I don't know where I was going with that. Oh my gosh. So like in terms of like those systems, and as a parent and seeing parents struggle through these systems, like what is there in your thoughts and opinions that can be done to try to eradicate racism within these systems? Or is that system even worth keeping? Like, what do we do?
That's a good question.
Okay, I was like, oh my goodness, did I even make sense?
No, you made sense. It's just, I think it's, I don't know. I couldn't begin to, I don't know. That is a good question. I don't, like you say, is that something that could even happen or make sense? I don't know. You got me pondering now. I don't know.
Kendall uses the example of the preschool director asked a friend that was a nutritionist about changing her child's diet while at preschool, and Kendall was very fairly like angry because that almost sent her child to the hospital due to a milk allergy.
Wow. Yeah.
And so they questioned Kendall's ability to parent because of they just didn't trust a woman of color versus some preschool director's friend who is a nutritionist, but like she was that child's mother, knew, like went to all the appointments, knew that child's diet, and they decided to override it and try to feed her child the wrong food that almost killed him.
Wow.
Like,
wow.
That is a very extreme example, but like whenever people assume that they know how to parent better, then like, have you encountered that whenever people are like, oh, you're like, I don't know, holding the baby wrong? I don't know what babies do. Okay.
That was a good example.
But and so in this situation, I will say with the baby example, that was a good, I think in our in our culture, the older people, like the grandmas, and say, even the female I talked about that took care of my oldest, a good example, she wanted to feed my baby rice cereal. And I know you guys don't have babies, but that's the little baby cereal that you feed babies. But she wanted to feed, she like, what are you talking about, right? Google it after we finish. She wanted to feed my baby rice cereal immediately. And that is what you see older grandmas do. But because I was a new mom, the doctor said, don't do that to 6 months. So I didn't want that. Now, did I think she was going to hurt him? No. But it was one of those things she felt she knew better because she had been a mother longer and she knew what she was doing, where I'm a new mom that I'm doing what the doctor said. And so, you know, I find that older people will try to correct me because they feel they have more experience and they've done it longer and they've raised more kids. And so, you know, I don't think she was wrong, but it's just I wanted to do what I was told. You know, I was following my instructions. So I think, you know, a lot of older people will do that. Yeah, they will say you holding that baby wrong, hold a head up or something. You know, they will impose that type of on you. And you know, I think it's wisdom. That's what I try to call it. So you just kind of respect the wisdom and learn to live with it, learn to accept it, and learn to appreciate it.
Babies terrify me.
Don't let the baby terrify you.
For work one time, they were just like, hey, can you watch this kid? And this was whenever I was working at my dad's church, just in like the little, like, you know, nursery where they like, I was just a teenager hanging out in there for some reason. And they were just like, hey, you want to watch this kid? And I was just like, don't die, don't die, don't die, don't die, don't die. So kids just terrify me. That's the bottom line.
You had the right idea up front. It's like, this kid needs to make it back to their parents.
I was just like, don't die. And I know that's a very low bar, but it's terrifying how many things can accidentally, like, kids can choke on stuff, kids can fall, kids can, like, it's terrifying.
Yeah, right. I was telling my brother, I was like, it's so nice being like a baby because we got like the twins. We got 3-year-old twin boys. And when we're there, you know, they bring so much joy. They're so much fun. But I was like, if they like run into a wall or they do something, like, I'm blamed for that. They're not blamed for that. They just get to be.
Yes.
Like, the amount of anxiety that I have with my cousin's kids, there's like a lot of them. There's like 5 of them, all under 10. So, like you said, if they run into a wall, like, what happens?
Right.
That's terrifying.
Is our fear of kids a good ending point?
I think so. I think the lesson here is don't have children, keep plants.
Oh, that's not true.
Is that what you got from this, Hannah?
From this an hour-long conversation, I got here's all my plants.
Oh, look at you. Yeah, Hannah. I'm gonna send Kiara a picture when I get home of how I'm killing my plants. And you tell me, see, probably part of you gonna tell me is sunlight. That might be part of the problem, but I'm gonna send you some pictures. You send me my instructions, okay?
Okay.
Well, Krystal, thank you so much. It's been so much
Thank
fun.
you for having
Thank
me.
you for coming.
So much for your time. This
Of course.
has been such an amazing conversation. Thank you so much.
Well, I am glad. I'm glad I could help. Hopefully I helped, you know. It's gonna make me go look for the book though. I think I want to see what, you know, Mikki Kendall. Yeah.
Yes, it's fantastic. I recommend it.
I'm giving my copy to my to one of my doormen. He was like seeing me like read it, and I was just like, yeah. And so I let him borrow it for a weekend, and then whenever I needed it back for the book club, he like wrote Black Lives Matter on the inside cover, and I was just like, oh my god.
How affirming.
Yeah.
I know, right? I was just like, ah. But anyways, next week our last chapter?
It is. Isn't that crazy?
Oh my gosh, because it makes sense. We're halfway through the year. We do 2 books a year and we're halfway through the year.
Wow.
Allies, anger, and accomplices.
Yes.
Ah.
This will be good.
I look forward to it.
Yes, I'm sure as I have many white people in my family, I will be talking a lot. But I usually don't.
I feel like there's no other way for it to end, honestly.
Oh my gosh. Well, my goodness. Well, thank you again so much. As always, you are so welcome to come back anytime you want. If you see something on Twitter or Instagram and just like, I want to do a podcast about that, let's talk.
Okay,
You are always
all right.
very welcome to come back to our book club. And Kiara, thank you again for just agreeing to do this project with me and being the best co-host ever.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you for creating this space. I have so much fun.
All righty. I will see you next week.
Bye.
All right, bye.